Shabbat Shalom, everyone. As I alluded before we began reading the Torah, I will be speaking about modern-day slavery on this, our last day of the celebration of the Jewish people's freedom. Specifically, I will be talking about human trafficking. So if you or a younger person with you does not want to hear about that intense subject, I won't take offense at all if you would prefer to leave the room. We have a story that is very well known because it's in the Torah about Tamar and Judah. And it's read by feminists as this glorification of women's empowerment. So to summarize, Tamar is married to Judah's oldest son, and he dies. And the custom of the time was, if one brother died, there was levirate marriage. Another brother would marry the widow so that her future would be secured. Well, the second son died, and Judah did not allow her to marry his third and last son, so she was somewhat in limbo, and she decided to take matters into her own hands. She disguised herself as a prostitute, and she tricked Judah into sleeping with her. And then when she turned out to be pregnant, she was able to say to Judah, actually, you caused all of this trouble. And he turns to Tamar and he says, you are more righteous than I. And in some ways, it's a very glamorous story for a woman to take so much power into her hands. And in Western culture, too, we sometimes tell that story around prostitution. Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman, or Demi Moore in Striptease. But the truth is that prostitution seldom looks like that. And the story of Tamar being empowered in her sexuality is a rare one. More often, it looks like the story in Judges 19. In those days, when there was no king in Israel, a Levite residing at the other end of the hill country of Ephraim took himself a concubine from Bethlehem in Judah. Well, if there's no king in Israel, we are being told this is a lawless time. And a concubine is not a wife. She has no legal rights. She has no position in the household. She is the sexual slave of her master. Once this concubine deserted him, leaving him for her father's home in Bethlehem in Judah, and she stayed there for full 4 months. In other words, she did not want to be with this man. She ran away. When her husband set out with an attendant and a pair of donkeys and went after her to woo her and to win her back, she admitted him into her father's house. Did she really have another choice? And when the girl's father saw him, he received him warmly. Did he really have another choice? When we tell the stories of human trafficking, it is often because a family has gotten themselves into some sort of financial trouble, and they are selling off their daughters or sometimes their sons to pay a debt. His father-in-law, the girl's father, pressed him, and he stayed with him 3 days. They ate and drank and lodged there. Early in the morning of the 4th day, he started to leave. But the girl's father said to the man, "Eat something to give you strength, then you can leave." He's trying to get him to tarry. He doesn't want to go. So the two of them sat down and they feasted together. And then the girl's father said to the man, "Won't you stay overnight and enjoy yourself?" And the man started to leave, but the girl's father kept urging him until he turned back and spent the night there. Early on the morning of the 5th day, he was about to leave when the girl's father said, "Come, have a bite," right? You can see he's really trying to save his daughter. The two of them ate, dawdling until past noon, but then the man, his concubine, and his attendant left. The father of the girl said to him, "Look, the day is waning towards evening. Stop for the night. See, the day is declining. Spend the night here and enjoy yourself. You can start early tomorrow." But the man refused to stay for the night, and he set out and traveled as far as the vicinity of Jebus, that is Jerusalem. He had with him a pair of laden donkeys, and his concubine was with him. Since they were close to Jebus and the day was far spent, the attendant said to his master, "Oh, let us turn aside to this town of the Jebusites and spend the night in it." But his master said to him, "We will not turn aside to a town of aliens who are not of Israel, but will continue on to Gibeah." So they continue on, and they turn off the road in Gibeah, which is a town in the territory of Benjamin. In the evening, an old man came along from his property outside the town. This man hailed from the hill country. He happened to see the wayfarer in the town square. "Where," the old man inquired, "are you going to, and where do you come from?" "We're traveling from Bethlehem in Judah to the other end of hill country in Ephraim. That's where I live. I made the journey to Bethlehem of Judah, and now I'm on my way to the house of the Lord, and nobody has taken me indoors. But we have bruised straw and feed for our donkeys, and bread and wine for me and your attendant and your servants. We lack nothing." "Rest easy," said the old man. "Let me take care of all your needs. Do not on any account spend the night in the square, for it is not safe." And he took him into his home. He fed the donkeys and bathed the strangers' feet, and they ate and drank. And while they were enjoying themselves, the men of the town, a depraved lot, gathered about the house and were pounding on the door. They called to the aged owner of the house, "Bring out the man who has come into your house so that we can be intimate with him." The owner of the house went out and said to them, "Please, my friends, do not commit such a wrong. Since this man has entered my house, do not perpetrate this outrage. Look, take my virgin daughter and his concubine instead." In other words, these women have no rights to say who they will or will not sleep with. "Let me bring them out to you and have your pleasure of them. Do what you like to them, but do not do what is this outrageous thing to this man." The men would not listen to him. So the man seized his concubine, pushed her out to them. They raped her and abused her all night long until morning, and let her go when dawn broke. And toward morning the woman came back, and as it was growing light, she collapsed at the entrance of the man's house where her master was. And when her master rose in the morning, he opened the door of the house and went out to continue his journey. And there was the woman, his concubine, lying at the entrance of the house with her hands on the threshold. "Get up," he said to her, "let's go." But there was no reply. So the man placed her on the donkey and set out for home. It becomes even more depressing after that, believe it or not. If you'd like to read it, it is Judges 19. Human trafficking is a $9.8 billion annual industry in the United States. It's not just something that happens far away in Thailand or India. At least 100,000 U.S. children are forced each year, and that number is growing, and the children are getting younger. There was a case in an elementary school in Plano where a sexual predator took a 15-year-old boy, and he was scrawny, so he enrolled him as a 5th grader, and he used him to bait young girls into sexual trafficking. The average age of entry into sex trafficking is 13. The life expectancy of someone once they enter sexual trafficking is 7 years. Texas is the number 2 state for the trafficking of children. That is a fact given to us by Homeland Security. The Department of Justice has designated the I-10 corridor as the number 1 route for human trafficking in the U.S. 1 out of every 3 street youth in the U.S. are at high risk of being approached by a pimp within 48 hours of running away or being kicked out of their homes. Dallas Independent School District has 3,000 registered homeless students. Collin County has 2,970. McKinney has 1,511. And Plano has 484. Our homeless students are some of our most vulnerable population, as are the children or illegal immigrants themselves, because there's a lot of fear involved in what will happen to them. The lure often used for these young women, and in some cases young men, is often drugs or tattoos, or their families are trying to pay off some sort of debt. So what can we do to help? We are celebrating freedom. How do we help those who are not free? Well, you can volunteer at an organization or donate money to an organization that is in the business of preventing human trafficking and helping the victims of human trafficking get their lives back together. You can lobby your government officials for harsher laws on those that are perpetrators and to stop treating victims as if they were criminals. You can bring a program into your school or your child's school or your grandchild's school to educate children about the dangers and how to navigate places like the internet or even like the mall. And finally, you can open your eyes and be alert in places where human trafficking takes place. If you are in a convenience store or a gas station or a parking lot and you notice strange behavior, call 911. Have someone come and take a closer look at what's happening. Part of being free people is that we now have a responsibility to be knowledgeable about other slaves in the world, and we have a responsibility to try and set them free. If you would like more information about how you can help, I'd be happy to share that with you during Kiddush. Chag Sameach.